Possibilities are all possible. Possibilities are all around us. We see potential in unexpected places. And when we share our knowledge, vision, and connections, we turn great ideas into action in communities all around the world. Together, we can make real change happen. We're Rotary. We are people of action. Get involved at Rotary.org.
Please welcome to the podium this year's member of the Lone Star Pets Board of Trustees, John Jetter, the 2008-2009 District Governor from 5830.
Welcome to the plenary session number 2. I just have one question for you. Are you getting inspired? Sounded a little tired. Try it again. There we go. Okay, let's get started then. Let me ask District Governor-elect Jerry Chapman from District 5870 to come forward and bring our invocation.
Will you please bow your head with me? Lord of the universe and all, we gather this weekend for Rotary Leadership Training and Rotary Fellowship. We are a diverse group of individuals gathered here this evening. We subscribe to different political ideologies, hold different religious or faith beliefs, come from different cultural backgrounds, and different races. Differences do not separate us, but rather become the source of our strength that provides us vision, that inspires and empowers us, Rotarians, to transcend those barriers so that we can overcome the impediments that so many others experience. Where there is conflict and disease, need for maternal and child care, Rotarians will be there. Where there is a need for clean water and sanitation, Rotarians will be there. Where there's a need for economic and literacy help, Rotarians will be there. Open our eyes, ears, and hearts this evening. Let us be inspired this weekend to discern opportunities to make a difference both locally and in the world as we share our common humanity. Amen.
Thank you, Jerry. Would you please stand, and I'll ask District Governor-elect Carmen Cuneo from District 5890 to come and lead us as we recite the four-way test.
Good evening, Rotarians. Good evening. Rotarians, we remind ourselves they prosper most who serve the best and live their lives by the four-way test of the things we think, say, and do. Number 1.
Is the truth.
Number 2.
Is fair to all concerned.
Number 3.
Will build goodwill and better friendships.
Number 4.
Will be beneficial to all concerned.
Thank you.
Thank you, Carmen, and please be seated. Okay, let me introduce the head table, please. And from my left and your right, we have Sharon Miles, past District Governor, current Curriculum Chair for Lone Star Pets, and from District 5790. Sharon. Linda Holt, Register Lone Star Pets from District 5770. Then Carmen Cuneo, District Governor-elect from District 5890. Then Anita Smallwood, wife of Andy Smallwood. Anita? Then Andy Smallwood, past Rotary International Director, 2012, 2014, Lone Star Pets Advisor, and from District 5890. Then past Rotary International President Rick King, who will be introduced more formally in a short while. From my right and your left, Ryan Anderson, song leader, Deputy Sergeant at Arms, Chief Ranger, also known as Deputy Dog, from District 5790. Then Ronnie Reynolds, 2018 Chairman of the Board of Trustees of Lone Star Pets, and from District 5870. Ronnie? Then Mary Reynolds, wife of Ronnie Reynolds. Then you've met Jerry Chapman already, District Governor-elect from District 5870. Jerry. And for once, I have put it on my schedule. I can't tell you how many times I have forgotten to introduce my wife, Frida Jeter. Finally, I am John Jeter, past District Governor from District 5830, currently the operating chair nominee for 2020, District 5830. Thank you. Now let me ask Hollis Blackie, Lone Star Pets Executive Director, to come forward for some special recognitions.
Good evening, Rotarians. Well, it's my pleasure from the Board of Trustees to announce and thank one person who has been your chairman of the board this year, and that's Ronnie Reynolds. I think we know him as the guru of financing. So, Ronnie, if you'll come up here, we'd like to offer you a crystal. Got it? Here's your box. Say something.
You're asking a PDG and giving them the microphone and no script? No, thank you all very much. It's been a great ride. Lone Star Pets is a great organization. You as president-elects, soon to be presidents, you're going to be leading your clubs. Thing that we encourage you to do, have a great experience here, take it back to your clubs, being inspired, and then inspire your president nominees and those that are coming after you to come to Lone Star Pets. Thank you all very much.
Now let me ask Ryan Anderson, our song leader, to come forward and sing a couple patriotic songs.
This one's for my friend Don Farrell. If tomorrow all the things were gone I'd worked for all my life, and I had to start again with just my children and my wife, I'd thank my lucky stars to be living here today. where the flag still stands for freedom, and they can't take that away. And I'm proud to be an American, where at least I know I'm free. And I won't forget the men who died, who gave that right to me. And I proudly stand up next to you and defend her still today. 'Cause there ain't no doubt I love this land. God bless the USA. From the lakes of Minnesota to the hills of Tennessee, across the plains of Texas, from sea to shining sea, from Detroit down to Houston and New York to LA, where there's pride in every American heart, and it's time we stand and say that I'm proud to be an American, where at least I know I'm free. And I won't forget the men who died, who gave that right to me. And I gladly stand up next to you and defend her still today. 'Cause there ain't no doubt I love this land. God bless the USA. And I'm proud to be an American, where at least I know I'm free. And I won't forget the men who died, who gave that right to me. And I proudly stand up next to you and defend her still today. 'Cause there ain't no doubt I love this land. God bless the USA. Thank you. All right, guys, one more. Please feel free to join me if you would like. While the storm clouds gather far across the sea, let us swear allegiance to a land that's free. Let us all be grateful for a land so fair, as we raise our voices in a solemn prayer. God bless America, land that I love. Stand beside her and guide her through the night with the light from above. From the mountains to the prairies, to the oceans wide with foam. God bless America, my home, sweet home. God bless America, my home, sweet home. Please be seated.
Well, Ryan and I tried to work where he would be behind me and I was singing, or appeared to be. But that just really didn't work very well, and you can see why. Wasn't that fantastic? Now, I'm not a native-born Texan. I grew up in Iowa, but I got here as quick as I could. And I married a Texan, and my kids are Texans. So what do we know about Texas history and today? Texas Independence Day. Thank you. Now let me ask Andy Smallwood, past Rotary International Director, 2012-2014, from District 5890, to introduce our keynote speaker.
All right, this is going to be an informal, formal introduction. The Rick King, President of Rotary International, 2001-2002. You can look in your programs. He's just done an awful lot of stuff. He has been heavily involved in other charitable organizations, cultural organizations, professional, civic, you name it, he's been a part of it. As president, well, as in Rotary, he's done virtually chaired every job there is in Rotary. But the one thing I really remember is him as president took the membership drive and took it to a new level. And the year he was president, we had a net 75,000 new Rotarians, largest growth ever. Now, and it continued into the second year. It was a solid push. Now, when I was out in your shoes, when I was a president-elect, we used to have a past director, Jack Forrest, and he would come up and introduce speakers, and he would generally say something like, I have known this person, we've been friends for 25 years, 30 years. And I'd sit there and I would listen, I'd go, the only people I know 25 years are either childhood friend or a relative. I mean, somebody in Rotary all that period of time, give me a break. All right, I met Rick in 1986. I went to a district conference, Corpus Christi. He was a guest speaker. I didn't really want to be there. It was probably like my first district conference and wasn't sure why I should be spending money on things like that. I looked at the program to see who was this speaker. He's an attorney. He's been a law professor at Brigham Young. He has an absolutely gorgeous wife. He had been a Las Vegas entertainer, a great singer. He had starred in a lot of musicals. He had a really nice hair, California. Did I say he was from California? You know, when you read all that stuff, you know there's just some people you know you're not gonna like. All right, so we start speaking, and he's got, you know, a mesmerizing voice, and I know what he's trying to do. He's going to get into my pocket. He wants to get into my billfold. And so I starred in being able to stare straight at a speaker, have my eyes wide open, build an invisible brick wall between me and them, and zone out about 1,000 miles away. And so I built my wall. And he is speaking away, and he just kept going right through that wall. And finally, he was taking bricks down faster than I could put them back up. And I finally said, you know, I'm just going to sit back and listen to him, enjoy it. And when it's over, if I wind up having to get a garage full of Amway, I'm going to do it. He finished that speech, and I've heard dozens more of his speeches since then. And every one of them, he never asked for your money. The most he ever asked from you is to be the best Rotarian you could ever be. And you know, that's just not a bad thing. So, let's give a Texas, Oklahoma welcome to my friend, still my friend, for 32 years, past RI President Richard D. King.
Thank you very much. I appreciate your standing up, but I'm going to speak anyway. And I want to extend congratulations. I see you missed the meeting where they picked next year's club president, and here you are. And it's probably come as a shock to you to realize that your current club president was actually trained how to do the job last year. Well, it's wonderful to be at Pets. We have a lot of governors here tonight. District governors, governors-elect, governor's nominee designate, area governors, assistant governors, lieutenant governors, and the rest of you, if you missed that meeting, you'll be a governor too. We appreciate these governors. One of your biggest jobs next year as a Rotary Club president will be to worship and love and respect your district governor. These governors have to do a lot of work. You got to visit every club in the district. That's a lot of lousy lunches, wonderful club meetings all over the district. And they're supposed to put out a monthly newsletter. Most of these newsletters are done these days electronically. But I am not very wise electronically, and I still get newsletters that are written on paper, like they used to be. And about midnight every night, I go into my home in Silicon Valley, and I sit in the sauna bath, stark naked, sweating, and I read the Rotary Manual of Procedure. There's no pictures in that book at all. It's worse than a law book. And I read newsletters that come to me from all over the world, still in printed form, or magazines, Rotary magazines. And one that caught my attention not so long ago was one that said, in praise of past district governors, right on the front. And I thought, well, isn't that nice? This comes from District 5050 in the Pacific Northwest. They call it the Peace Arts Journal. Half the clubs are in Canada, and half of them are in the state of Washington. And I thought, this is nice that this article is all about past district governors, so I decided to read it sitting in my sauna bath. I realized that there was not much accurate in this article, but there's a picture of the guy who wrote the article right here on the front. And I was going to write him a note and said, you didn't have anything accurate to say. But then somebody told me he was a federal judge. So I wrote him a note that said, what a great article you wrote. Because in my business, it pays to be on the good side of federal judges. And I realized, somebody told me that he'd only been a Rotarian for 6 months. So I thought, well, that's nice that he did that. And in praise of all of the governors who are here tonight, past district governors, the governors-elect, the governor's nominee designate, and the rest of you, I want to read just a couple of paragraphs from this article. Now remember, this guy had only been in Rotary 6 months when he wrote this article. Rotary International has more than 1 million members worldwide. It is estimated, though not confirmed, that there are approximately 900,000 past district governors all over the place. Why is this, he asks? Well, the ordinary member of a club, a usual Rotarian, like other individuals in society, dies when his or her time comes. Not so with PDGs, who simply do not die, which accounts for the relatively large percentage of them with respect to the total membership. How are the district governors chosen, you may ask? And I know a couple of you have wondered that during the day today, but that's another speech. The actual selection process was and is mysterious, and no one seems to know for sure where these people come from. The research in this all-important area is continuing, but based on the profile of the 953 PDGs in our district, he's off by 943, but close enough for government work, one can assume the following. First, you must be a Rotarian of at least 35 years and have perfect attendance during those 35 years. Second, you must have a personally autographed picture of Paul Harris hanging over your mantle. Third, you must have a terrific sense of humor. Fourth, everything in your house and business must have a Rotary logo on it, even your pajamas. Sherry and I have a rotary wheel in the ceiling above the bed where we sleep every night. It lights up every 2 or 3 hours, and it sings my theme song. Sing out a song of Rotary, we're in the business of mankind. And we sleep with an Australian cattle dog. That's not another Rotarian, that's a hairy dog from Australia. And he puts his paws over his ears and goes, "Ooh!" You don't get a lot of sleep, but it's a lot of fun. 5, your spouse must want to follow you to the ends of the earth, even to the district conference. 6, you must be able to give the same bad speech 122 times without ever getting it right. 7, you must be able to eat rubber chicken every meal for a year. And 8, you must have retired after selling out your business for $20 million or gone bankrupt, one or the other. Now, the job of district governor is not all cookies, of course, he says. There is considerable hardship incurred with the job. For example, the average weight gain of district governors during their year, what with constant banqueting and excessive drinking, is roughly 28 pounds, and even more for their spouses. Sociologists and geriatric consultants to Rotary International have concluded the spouses have particular trouble because they've got to listen to the same bad speech 122 times and often therefore engage in compensatory eating. I once knew a district governor's wife who gained 5 pounds each week for a year. Now, if she just avoids her husband's speeches, foundation dinners, district conferences, and the like, she can keep her weight normal. Then he gets very serious. None of this answers the question, however, why past district governors are so venerated and so respected and so loved. Again, I'm not certain, but I think there is something just so lovable about a PDG sitting at a specially reserved table, mumbling the 4-way test as his face slowly lowers into the P's. Kind of gets you right there, doesn't it? Well, I can tell you there is something to that weight problem. I gained probably 30 to 40 pounds when I was a district governor, and I was coming out of the shower one morning with a towel around me that wouldn't reach. My wife is a dancer. I saw her cross the stage one day in her costume in Las Vegas, and I thought, there goes a girl who really ought to be married to a Rotarian. She's physically fit. She does a lot of aerobics and Pilates and stuff that I don't understand. And she looked at me and she said, "Well, I can see that you've had every free meal they offered you this year." I could tell by the look on her face we were going to have a conversation I wasn't going to enjoy. We did, and I didn't. A lot of people think I made this story up, because I tell it a lot. But it's a true story of my early days in Rotary and my early days with my married wife. Because we got married 2 weeks before I became a district governor. And she said to me, "How long does this Rotary stuff last?" And following the 4-way test, I said, "It's only 1 year, don't worry about it." That was 35 years ago. She went over to Woolworths and she bought a little trampoline for $29.95. You don't get a big trampoline for $29.95. It was about the third of the size of that round table you're sitting at. And she stuck it up in the corner of our bedroom, underneath the rotary wheel in the ceiling in the bedroom. And it looked like a little spaceship from Mars. And I said, "Sherry, what do you do with this?" And she said, "You jump up and down on it every morning and you'll get fit." I couldn't think of anything I'd rather less do. But I thought, what the heck, I love my wife, I'll jump. Because I'm not as dumb as I look, I'll tell you that. And I jumped up and down on this thing and I hated every minute of it. But I discovered on the third morning they've got great reruns of Leave It to Beaver. And on the third day I got so engrossed in the plot that I came down on the edge of the trampoline instead of in the middle and I broke my leg. And I was so happy this happened after only 3 days. And I could get rid of that trampoline. And of course I had to wear a cast, because when you break your leg, you got to wear a cast. And I got get well messages from Rotary Club presidents just like you, who loved and respected me as their district governor. and one I've kept close to my heart all these years because the president of the club took the time out of his very busy presidential year to write me a personal get-well message on the inside of the card. Dear Governor Rick, we'd like you to know that the Rotary Club of San Lorenzo, California, by a vote of 17 to 15, hopes you recover. Which I thought was a landslide considering that club. Touching PS on here, we were going to send you flowers, but that lost 5 to 27. I've come across many definitions of leadership in my lifetime. I've got a library on books on the subject of leadership. It's a challenging thing to contemplate and to figure out for each individual. But the best definition of leadership I've come across is this. A leader is somebody who influences somebody else to do something. A leader involves influence, persuading, inspiring, motivating, challenging other people to get the job done. That is leadership. And in my judgment, Rotary requires uncommon leadership. A former president of the United States, Herbert Hoover, gave a speech which I've read and reread in my lifetime many times over. Herbert Hoover said this, "Among the delusions offered us by fuzzy-minded people is that imaginary creature, the common man. It is dinned into us that this is the century of the common man. The uncommon man is to be whittled down to size. It is a negation of individual dignity and a slogan of mediocrity and uniformity. The greatest strides of human progress have come from uncommon men and uncommon women. The humor of it is, he said, that when we get sick, we want an uncommon doctor. If we have to go to war, he said, we yearn for a uncommon general or admiral. If we have a child in school, we seek that uncommon teacher who can inspire our child to its greatest potential. If we're running a business, we seek the uncommon salesman, the uncommon manager, the uncommon engineer. Indeed, everything that is good in our lives has come to us from men and women who have dared, often in the face of great peer ridicule, to reach out and be uncommon. The job of the Rotary Club president, in my judgment, in one sentence is this. It is to change your club from what it is to what it ought to be. And it requires 3 characteristics. Conviction, what you know, vision, what you see, and commitment, what you feel about what you're going to do next year. What do you know about Rotary? That's why you come to this meeting, to learn all you can about the organization. There's a lot to learn. After all, you are our expert next year in membership recruitment, membership orientation, membership assimilation, membership retention, membership extension, vocational service, international service, club service, community service, youth service, club bulletins, club meetings, club public relations, club attendance, club finances, club fundraising, club social activities, club assembly, lock the doors back there, club programs, club district projects, the district conference, the district assembly, the Rotary Foundation, Paul Harris Fellows, Paul Harris Sustaining Members, benefactors, major donors, group study exchange, vocational exchange, youth exchange, friendship exchange, district grants, community grants, global grants, Polio Plus, Interact, Youth Act, Early Act, Rotaract, RILA, the Rotary Village Corps, pilot programs, peace forums, disaster relief, World Community Service, Foundation Scholars, wheelchairs, Future Vision, the strategic plan, substance abuse, not yours. And on the 7th day, you get to rest. That's all you got to do next year. That's your job, to change your club from what it is to what it ought to be the uncommon leader at this opportunity. Rotary now is a vast organization, the world's most extensive service club, prestigious, financial, compassionate, and humanitarian all over the globe, some 35,000 clubs, men and women of every race, color, creed, language, politics, religion, educational background, vocation, occupation, profession, heads of state, foreign ministers, business leaders, cultural leaders, religious leaders, educational leaders, entertainment leaders, athletic leaders, men and women all over the globe, Protestants and Catholics in the same Rotary clubs on the border of Ulster and Ireland, Muslims and Hindus in the same Rotary club on the border of India and Pakistan, and throughout the Middle East, Arabs and Jews, breaking bread together, wearing the same Rotary pin that says Rotary International, members of Rotary. This is the organization which you are called upon to lead next year. And in my judgment, you are the most important officer that Rotary has. The Rotary Club President is the most important person in Rotary. Simply because Rotary is done in the club. If it doesn't get done in your club next year, it doesn't get done. And I'm of the view that it's the most important business any of us will engage. Don't misunderstand me. I think it's important to succeed in our secular occupations. We have mortgages to pay, children to educate, retirements to plan for, cars to buy, and all of the rest. And I've got my share of these things, and I know you do too. But no matter how many degrees are on our wall from colleges and universities, no matter how much money we make, no matter how much success and applause we get from our peers, no success can compensate for failure in the business of humanity, in the business of mankind. No success can compensate if we fail in that business, because when all is said and done, it is the only business we're going to take with us when we leave this life. It's the only business that goes with us, what we've done for others. And the miracle of it is that in the process of doing for others, we do even more for ourselves. And so, I submit that the most important business you will engage in your lifetime, you will do next year as the president of your Rotary Club, influencing leaders, influencing peers in your community to get something done to help other people, and in the process, helping themselves even more. That's your job next year, and it requires a conviction that what you know about Rotary is important, that what you're doing in Rotary is significant. If you have a conviction that Rotary is significant and important, your club members will too. If you don't, if you just take a nonchalant attitude and a let's just get through it attitude for the year, they will do the same. They look to you to set the example, to be the inspiration. They look to you to be the leader, to be the influence, to change the club from what it is to what it ought to be. They look to you to be the uncommon president, the uncommon leader. After conviction, what is your vision? What do you see for your club next year? The average Rotary Club is made up of very unaverage people. For the most part, at least the clubs I've been to all over the globe, they are above average incomes, above average educations, above average goal setters, above average success achievers, and yet we bring these same successful, well-educated people in their occupations and businesses to the Rotary Club meeting on Tuesdays at noon, and we start talking to them as if they were in the second grade. We set goals that are so low in Rotary productivity that if we set those goals that low in our businesses or occupations, we would go bankrupt. And the sad reality is that too many Rotary clubs are bankrupt in the business of service because they're too timid. They're afraid to set their goals of achievement high enough to measure the worth of the members in their club. And this is the challenge to the uncommon Rotary Club president. I was on the original Polio Plus committee here in the United States, 1984 to 1988. As you all know, we were charged with the responsibility of raising in 1 month, in 1 year, $120 million, which was 4 times more than had ever been raised in any given year in our history in the Rotary Foundation. Up to that point, about $30 million was the annual amount. And they asked us to raise $120 million, 4 times that amount in 1 year. We were Rotary volunteers sitting in this committee, Jim Bomar and Herb Brown and Keith Burnham and Jack Forrest. and others, and we didn't know how to raise this money. None of us were professional fundraisers. So we hired a company in New York City, a professional fundraising company. We paid them $4 million up front, which is a third their normal fee. They normally want 10% of the goal. But we told them that we couldn't pay that, and they said, well, for Rotary, we'll do this for $4 million up front. So we held our breath, and we paid it. And we said, okay, now what do we do? And they said, the first thing you do is you set a goal for every Rotary club in the world. And we did that because we thought we're paid them so much money, we're going to be on their heads. We'll have to join Kiwanis if we don't succeed at this. So we did that. And we got some hate mail from clubs that didn't like the idea that we were suggesting goals to them. But I'll never forget some of the success stories and how it changed those clubs when they reached those goals. I remember one in particular, a suburb of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, a small club, 30 Rotarians. It had been around 40 years. And every year when the district governor came by and wanted to raise the per capita giving to the Rotary Foundation and increase membership, the club president always had an excuse. The coal industry's in recession, the steel industry's in recession, the community's in recession, the businesses are going down. And so nothing more was raised than an aggregate of about $1,000 a year total for the Rotary Foundation from those 30 Rotarians. For 40 years, they had contributed a total of $40,000 to the Rotary Foundation. We asked them to raise $120,000. 2.5 times in 1 year what they'd raised in 40 years. And that same club of 30 members, the same losers, the same people who always had an excuse, who had always had a reason why it couldn't be done, went out and raised cash for Polio Plus, $120,000 in 8 weeks. What happened? Same club, same name of the club, same 30 members, same meeting place, same club banner, but a different club president. Someone who took the mantle of leadership seriously and had a vision of the potential in his club. And because of the difference in the club president, they were a successful Rotary Club from then on. The challenge to the Rotary Club president: change his or her club from what it is to what it ought to be. 4 steps are necessary in order to do this, in my judgment. First, you have to set a numerical goal. How much per capita giving increase are you going to get to the Rotary Foundation next year? How many new members net is your club going to do next year? You don't say we're going to do better in the Rotary Foundation, we're going to do better in membership. That's not a goal. That's a prescription for business as usual. You have to set a specific numerical goal, in my opinion. How many new members net? How much money net can you raise for the Rotary Foundation? How many couples can you get to go to the district conference? After all, the district conference is really a conference of the clubs in the district. And the district governor could use your support, because he's mandated by Rotary International to put on a district conference. So he or she could use your support next year. Just as you hope for the support of the members of your club with your goals, the district governor will seek your support for his or her goals in her gubernatorial year. So you need to set these specific goals. Next, second, you need to develop a business plan to reach the goal. It doesn't do any good just to set a goal and then announce it and then forget it the rest of the year. How are you going to reach the goal? What kind of a business plan are you going to have? Every business that's successful has a business plan. I don't know what you do for a living, but in my business, we had a chart in my law office wall for 50 years. How many people did we sue last month? How many people can we sue next month? Whether you're a dentist, a car dealer, a financial expert, an insurance salesman, a shoe salesman, whatever it is you do for a living, in order to succeed, you need a business plan. And every Rotary Club needs a business plan if it's going to reach the goals that you've set. Third, after you've set the goal, and after you develop the business plan, then you work the plan. It doesn't do any good to just announce a business plan and a goal and ignore it. You have to work it at your meeting for 5 minutes or so every meeting, every week, so that it's in the forefront of your members. And fourth, you've got to recognize those people who do the job for you. Because in Rotary, peer recognition is the reward we often seek and get for a job well done. You do these 4 steps, and you can achieve some success if you set a vision and goals high enough to be worthy of the members of your club. Someone once asked Helen Keller, blind, deaf, unable to speak, "Miss Keller, can you think of anything worse than being blind?" "Oh, yes," she replied, "having sight and no vision." Now, I know this isn't as easy. It requires the best that is in you. It requires you to give the best you can to your job next year, because it's worth doing well. You've got 1 year to do it, and there'll be naysayers in your club. There will be people who will be opposed to you, and you have to go around them. You have to treat them the way that Luigi treats his barber. Luigi is an optimist because he's bald, but he has 2 hairs, and he goes in every Saturday at 4 o'clock for a haircut. And the barber is a pessimist. To the barber, the glass is always half empty. But to Luigi, the glass is always half full. And Luigi goes in one Saturday at 4 o'clock to get his 2 hairs cut off. And the barber says, "Why are you so happy today? It's miserable. My wife and I have saved up our money, and we're going to make an ancestral trip to our home in Italy, where our ancestors came from." The barber said, "The plane will probably crash in the middle of the ocean. They don't maintain those planes the way they used to. And they're smelly, and they don't serve any good food. What are you going to do when you get there?" "Oh, Italy, we've wanted to see Italy all our lives." "Italy doesn't work as a country," the barber said. "The trains don't run on time, they don't collect the garbage, and on every street corner, all those Italians know how to do is stand around with French bread in their armpits, singing songs, drinking wine, and making love," which didn't seem like such a bad idea to Luigi. "Yes," he said, "but when we get there, it's going to be the moment of my lifetime. We're going to see the Pope." And the barber just laughed at him and said, "You fool, save your money. You'll get nowhere near the Pope. There's always 250,000 people in front of the Pope." 3 weeks went by, and Luigi went back in to get his 2 hairs cut off. And the barber said, "Well, I see the plane didn't crash. It was wonderful, a wide-body jet, lovely stewardesses, movies, filet mignon wrapped in bacon. It was great. But when you got to Italy, I'll bet it was a wreck. It was springtime, the flowers were out, and we went to the opera, and on every street corner, Italians were standing around with French bread in their armpits, singing songs, drinking wine, and making love." The barber said, "I know, but it was a waste of your money. You never got anywhere near the Pope." And Luigi got misty-eyed, and he said, "You know, it was the moment of my life. I knelt right in front of him. He put his hands on my head and gave me a pastoral blessing. He looked me in the eyes, and he said, 'Luigi, my son, where did you get that lousy haircut?'" Just remember, in the words of Fulton J. Sheen, the great Archbishop, if they're kicking you in the rear, you must be out in front. So next year, give it your best shot, and there'll be a payback to you. Everything we do in Rotary has its own reward. And in my judgment, exercising leadership in Rotary in an uncommon manner, really influencing your members to getting some goals achieved and done, will bring a change to your life that you couldn't buy anywhere at any price, at any university, at any time. You'll get an education in cultural experiences, public speaking, leadership experiences, management experiences, program experiences, language experiences, international experiences. You'll get a college education unlike any you'll ever get. It'll be the payback that'll come to you for doing the job as Rotary Club president. I wish for you the same sort of letter I got when I got through being president of my Rotary Club. The chief of police was in our club, and this is what he wrote to me. He said, "Rick, I'd follow you anywhere because you made me better than I thought I was." I wish for you that same kind of message from a member in your club next year. Believe me, I've got a house full of great gifts from heads of state all over the globe and Rotarians. I've got some lovely gifts from Dallas, Fort Worth Pets, the Lone Star Pets. But the letter that I have from that club president is one I've treasured all my life. And I wish for you with all my heart and soul the same experience next year. Finally, after you have a conviction that what you're doing is important, after you have a vision for your club that's worthy of them next year, what is your commitment? What do you feel about what you're going to do next year? I believe that more is accomplished in Rotary and in business and in life and in the world with commitment than perseverance or intelligence or education or money or background or any of the other characteristics, all of which are important. Commitment. The feeling that you've got that you need to get it done. You've got 1 year of your life in which to do it, and it needs to get done. I could tell you 1,000 stories of commitment that I've seen with my own eyes in 50 years of Rotary work. But one that always comes to my mind is an old man I met one day. 25 to 30 years ago, I was on the board of Rotary International. In those days, we finished our meals on the 18th floor of the headquarters building instead of going down to a cafeteria during the board meetings. And I was finishing my lunch one day when an old man walked in with a cane. They told me he was 90 years of age, his face lined with ravages of Eastern Europe in the 20th century, escorted by one of the 600 young staff members at Rotary World Headquarters. I couldn't take my eyes off of this man. He looked so fascinating to me. And I finished my cake, and I went over and sat across from him and introduced myself. And I said, "You're getting a tour of the building, aren't you?" He said, "Rick, I've waited for this day all my life. All my life I've wanted to come to America. I wanted to come here to see where this idea began." "Where are you from?" I said. "I'm from Prague, then Czechoslovakia." "And you're a Rotarian?" "I hope so." "You hope so? What do you mean you hope so?" "Well, I was once a real Rotarian, Rick. I joined the Rotary Club of Prague in 1925 when we chartered the club. We were so proud to be associated with an organization that had its origination in the United States of America. We wore our pins with pride. We flew the Rotary flags outside the hotel where we met every week. And we were proud to be a Rotary Club. And I said to my wife, "Let's save up our money. I want to go to America someday. I want to see where this idea of people helping people began." But in 1939, the Nazis came to my country, and it was treason to become a Rotarian. Some of our members were killed, shot, tortured. We had to disband the club. We couldn't wear our pins. We couldn't fly the banner anymore. We were no longer Rotarians. But a few of us said, "Why don't we meet secretly in hiding every week or every other week, lest we be caught and tortured, to remember that we were Rotarians?" And so we did that, Rick. For 6 long years, we did that. It was a glorious day in 1945 when the Allies came to Prague, and for the second time in my life, I was a real Rotarian. We chartered the Rotary Club of Prague all over again, and we wore our pins with pride. We flew the Rotary banner outside the hotel where we met every week. And I said to my wife, "Let's start over. Let's save up our money. I want to go to America someday. I want to see where this idea began." But just 3 years later, in 1948, the communists came to Prague. And once more in my lifetime, it was treason to be a Rotarian. Once more, we had to disband the club. No longer could we wear our pins. No longer could we fly the flag. But a few of us said, "Well, we did it before. Let's do it again. Let's meet in secret and hiding as often as we dared, to remember for just a moment that we were really Rotarians." And we did it again, Rick. But this time, we did it for 42 years. 42 years. How many 42 years are there in a person's lifetime? 2 if we're lucky? I just stared at him. I couldn't even begin to comprehend how different his life was from mine, how different our opportunities have been. I looked at the ravages in his lined face, 90 years of age, and I thought to myself, what an individual this must be, to have survived so much, 42 years meeting and hiding, to remember the ideals of Rotary. And he said, I knew I would die before I ever came to America. I knew I would die before I would ever become a Rotarian again. But last year, Rick, a miracle happened. The wall came down, and for the third time in my life, I'm going to be a real Rotarian. And I just looked at him, and I said, my friend, you've always been a real Rotarian. I saw him once. He stood a moment there. His eyes met mine and laid my spirit bare. He held my hand, then passed beyond my ken. But what I was, I will never be again. What a commitment. That's why the organization is so great. That's why it's so powerful on the global stage in changing humanitarian needs and wants. That's why we're here. That's why I'm here. That's why you're here. Because of people like that man who made Rotary the greatest organization it could possibly be. And your turn is next year. You're the chance to influence your club, to change it from what it is to what it ought to be, to achieve some real goals. Your chance to be the uncommon leader, the uncommon Rotary Club president. Let me close with the words of a past Rotary International president who I love dearly. He was a friend of mine. He was a quiet theologian from Salt Lake City. For 40 years, Richard L. Evans broadcast the spoken word with the Tabernacle Choir broadcast on CBS Radio. In 1966-67, he was our Rotary International president. And in that year, he mounted the podium of the Rotary International Convention at the south of France in Nice, and he made this provocative suggestion. It sometimes seems that we live as if we wondered when life itself was going to begin. It isn't always clear just what we're waiting for, but some of us sometimes persist in waiting so long that life slips by, finding us still waiting for something that has been going on all the time. There is no reason to doubt good intentions, but when in the world are we going to begin to live as if we understood that this is it? This is life. This is our time, our day, our generation, our one chance to do something for somebody else. This is it. This is life. Whether we are thrilled or disappointed, busy or bored, givers or takers. This is life. It's all we've got, and it's passing. What in the world are we waiting for? The second President of the United States, John Adams, put it nicely when he said, in all the world, only two kinds of people ever really count. Those people who make commitments and those people who keep them. President-elect of Rotary International, you have made your commitment. Go now and keep it. God bless you.
President Wick, it's always a treat and always an inspiration to hear your message. And we are so thankful that you were able to make it and speak to all of us and inspire our new presidents coming in this next year. We'd like to honor your presence with a gift. You may have seen this presented earlier today.
I think I did.
You did. I did have a request, though, from several people to tell a little bit more about this gift. This is developed by a fellow named William Wilhelmi. He's a graduate of UCLA with a Master of Fine Arts in Design. He has achieved wide national attention with his now famous and distinctive designs in pottery. We'd like you to have this plate in memory of joining us today. And if we could hold this up, and could the camera in the back zero in so you can really see the plate? I guess that's about it. Okay. Thank you so much.
Well, if this was designed from a guy from California, it's got to be pretty good. And my wife is going to be thrilled it's not another plaque. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
This is a special announcement to those that want breakfast tomorrow. We will open at 7 a.m. There will not be any seating after 7:15 a.m. So set your clocks earlier than 6:45. Well, this concludes the second plenary session of the Lone Star Pets presentation for 2018. Have a wonderful evening.